Hi, this is a land use committee meeting on April 23rd, 2024. And I'm Ann Mazar, I'm the chair of the committee, and I represent the Community Preservation Committee. And
I'm Elena Burgos, I represent the select board.
Barry Idaho, planning board.
Frank Nero, member of the Land Use Committee.
And Carolyn is on there too, but she can't hear.
It's like she's in space.
I know. Can't hear you.
Still muted.
Yeah, you're muted. It says she's unverified, is that?
Oh, there we go. Better?
Yeah.
Good. Okay.
What planet are you on?
She's floating in space.
I don't know. I thought this was, this background was really kind of, I've never seen anything like that. So I this one looked good.
All right, and it looks like we have the little plants here too. Okay, did everyone get a chance to read the minutes?
I'll make a motion, accept the minutes as written for March 11th, I believe it was.
12.
Second.
Is there any discussion? All right.
What'd you say, Ann?
Okay, any discussion, any questions on the minutes?
Oh. Nope, that's fine.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I
Great. So I just wanted to give a couple updates first. One, which I don't think I mentioned, but the open space and recreation plan has been approved, which is great, and it will be good for 7 years, and that helps the town. It's required for many grants. You're right. So
Approved by the state?
the state,
Yes.
yes,
Wonderful.
finally.
Yes.
So that was really good. And we received the Meta grant, which we had talked about a while ago, where they're going to do energy assessments on the town hall, highway building, and fire station, and then help us write the grant for the green communities in the fall. And we're gonna do the fall round, not the spring round, because we just don't have the time to do that. Plus, we're waiting for this Meta grant, and we just received it recently. And then 73 and 75 Providence Street has closed, and it ended up costing $33,000 less because the septic didn't meet Title V, and so instead of having them fix it, we wanted to have the price reduced because we're not exactly sure what we're gonna do with the property. We may or may not, we don't know, but we got that mass housing grant, and they're gonna look at like 10 acres of the paddock property, 10 of the 60, and see what we can do for affordable housing. And so, we don't really need the septic fixed at this point because we just.
It might be upgraded anyways. It's
Yeah.
going to need to be an inspection. If you, it passed.
Didn't. Yeah, so that's why we got $33,000 less. Hi, Peter.
Hello, sorry.
This is Peter Coffin from the Conservation Commission. Let's see, and then really big news is on the Denton property. We got preliminary approval of a grant for $600,000. So that's really going to be
From which part of the state?
from the Nature Conservancy.
Oh, not even the state. Even
Yeah,
better.
it's turtle mitigation.
Wow.
Yeah, for the box turtle. So yeah.
Well, it is critical habitat. I didn't know that.
it is. Well, it's it's the Denton
The
property.
only sandy
is-
soil we got.
Huh?
That whole valley, it's a different habitat, sandy
His
soil.
whole property is in it, and
Yeah.
and Audubon and Medical Land Trust helped us to grant, so that was fantastic. And then,
I'm still expecting other grants.
yes, Audubon is the one that originally contacted us about this property because they looked at all the properties on the state and they zeroed in on this one as one of the properties that they wanted to help. So they paid for the appraisal. I've been working with Megan from the Audubon, and she's been helping us along the way on the process. And they got a huge grant for land preservation, and so Audubon should be putting some money in. You're not exactly sure how much.
Yeah, because I don't know, how do you negotiate that? Because say, we would support that, right? And so if we got less than half that money from the state, maybe CPA would pick up, but then you start trawling around for other donors.
Well, we're working on.
They've already gotten 600, which is what, 2/3? Well, what's
Yeah,
the total
it's-
price? What's the?
The total is for everything with the due diligence and the conservation restriction and the purchase price, it's 1.8 million.
1.8, so 600 thirds, so we still gotta come up with 1.2.
Well, so the plan is, I mean, we've been working on this for many months, is 500,000, we're hoping will come from CPA, which would be the town meeting. We were gonna apply for a
So at least
land grant,
500,000
right, and then 500,000 from the land grant.
land grant.
And then the leftover, I think Audubon will fill that in because.
So land grant is a state agency, wildlife,
So,
or it's
yeah,
OEA?
it's,
We've tapped it before in the past?
yes, and they give real, the most they'll give is 500,000, but this property is, super, high wildlife habitat. Very valuable, so I would say we have a really good chance to get it. I think.
But who determines how much to go for? 'Cause it-
500,000.
So, okay, so that's, so then that's, is there a gap then, or it's all up to Mass Audubon? If Mass Audubon kicks in, does that mean CPA doesn't have to kick in as much?
No,
Or no, you're
no.
budgeting all,
CBA has to put money in.
yeah, but 500 versus 450, I don't know, you get that.
The 500, it's 500 from, CPA, 500 from the land grant, hopefully. 600 from the Nature Conservancy, and then there's like, 175,000 or something, I haven't written down.
Okay, so that
And
needs to be
would
matched,
from
that's the kick.
Audubon. I'm gonna
You're
see,
hoping
if-
that's from Audubon, okay.
I'm pretty sure that we have that, and if I get that information, $176,625.
Well, yeah,
So-
I guess so, yeah.
And then Audubon, mendonma, and I will write the land grant. And we won't know that until after the town meeting, but the other ones we should know by town meeting.
Great.
So, yeah, and it's just, it's nice to have some solid information because people always be like, what if, you know?
Right.
Well, no, and it's building on it, $600,000 from a new source, that's significant.
Yeah, it's a new program they have. And the woman from, Megan Gordon from, Audubon, she knew about that, and so she helped us write the application, and, yeah. And then I just wanted to mention that the Mendon Town cleanup is now until May 5th, and so if anybody's interested, they can pick up bags and gloves at Wood Plaza, at Custom Home Realty. Pick up garbage, needs to be done, like, all over town.
And just gets left there in those bags and the DPW picks it up.
And, we didn't have any gloves, and so I had to buy some, for $37.93, and I was wondering if, I could get reimbursed for that, which maybe just money. That's a was that a second?
Yes.
Okay. So Frank, the amount was 37.
Perfect.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Need supplies.
Huh?
You need supplies.
Right.
Right, and well, the larger question is, who's sponsoring this? Because originally it had been the Conservation Commission, and then it was the Lions Club. And I'm glad it's kind of taken on this, all the towns are doing it. They get the commitment from the DPW, that's the biggest thing, picking up the garbage. Gloves are not, in my mind, not a necessity. Because then you're equipping them, you're supplying them, that's liability. If you've got, they're adults, this is not a special one-time thing. This should be ingrained into one's, and I don't know, we're not picking up syringes, but it's
Well, we-
philosophical.
We encourage people to bring their own gloves, but if they don't have gloves, then they're at least there with the bags, they can pick them up. And, it's, I end up coordinating it every year, but the Lions Club helps, the DPW, parks, the zoo, they do the graphics, it's like everybody will do the things, but somebody
Someone
just
has
needs
to
to,
ask, like,
right?
man, you need a chair, well, that's,
Yeah. So,
and you do too much, I'm sorry. But
yeah,
that's,
no, really.
because that should be a no-brainer to turn over. You've created the partnerships, you've got all the protocols down, but.
Well, Isabella, I mean, that might be something.
Well,
that she
there
wants
you
to
go,
do,
there,
you know.
that's, yeah.
So,
Thank you again.
yeah, you're welcome, and it just, if you run or walk, you see all the garbage, you know.
I do,
That's it. I clean the front of my yard all the time, it's
I know.
fireballs, beer cans,
Mhm.
it's like,
The styrofoam cup.
And lottery tickets, that's a big one too.
Circumcision.
Yeah.
On your taxes.
So do you want to vote on this?
What the expenses?
The $37.93 for
Yep.
gloves?
Aye.
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 Aye. Okay. Thank you.
A lot of discussion on that.
Yeah. So, the next item is consider a new beaver solution device at 100 Park Street, which is in Min Pond, at Meadowbrook Woods. And I don't know if you looked at the paperwork that I sent, but the device has been working well, but it is like 15 years old. And they made one repair on it and they would like to, they're suggesting that we replace it.
And how much does the new one cost?
That was what, 15?
1,500?
It was less than that, but, oh, here it is. Okay.
Was it parts to it? The essential parts in that? What?
That's the way it was installed.
Yeah, oh, you're right, it's $1,516. And, so what I'd like to do is, and Beaver Solution said that they would take a payment this fiscal year and next fiscal year, so I'd like to take half of that and pay for it this year and the other half to pay.
Makes sense. It's kind of, what is life expectancy, right? Or is
Oh, it's been there 13 years, so
that's, I would think that's.
I would think ice and over the winters tends to jostle it around.
And that has been successful, the existing, yeah.
Yeah.
So this is all coming from expense account for the land, I don't know how much money we got in that, or this is.
Yeah,
Those are certainly legitimate.
I set aside money for the maintenance every year, and we have 3 in town, 3 of the devices, and so they come in and they check everything, and, that comes out of land use. And that's something also that could eventually be switched over to Concom, it's just that,
But because it just come to Concom, there was this distraught landowner because it's like she sacrificed a good part of her land. There's 2 streams coming together and normally it doesn't flood, but it's done now. The National Grid type could take out the beaver and now, so it comes to us. I don't know, for who's in charge of beavers, right? Is it Board of Health or the DPW or the beaver dams are Concom. So I imagine they're getting more and more beavers. We got 3 now, you're saying that we're responsible for, that
These are-
we've installed.
these
There's
are-
gonna be more.
Yeah,
3
these
places.
are on open space, but highway departments use these devices, and then once it's in, they don't have to, keep on trapping the beavers because they come back. And
No, it makes a lot of sense to me. I'm just saying that there's going to start being more and more of these. And maybe if it's on a private landowner, they're responsible for it, right?
Right, same one would be.
From personal experience, the beaver population seems to be increasing,
Mhm.
not just in Mendon, but some local issues that have come up. Had one situation where there was a beaver dam on a private piece of private property, and we got all those rains, and it broke free. And it started flooding some private property. The town culvert wasn't big enough to handle the water.
It eventually
Yeah.
impacts the goal.
At the end of the day, the landowner is not responsible for that. That's a natural occurrence, and the town could not make them do anything about it. So they had to take matters into their own hand and increase the culvert, and
Yep.
that was a recent happening, but I think we've heard some town people, and again, in local towns, it seems like there's more and more beaver dams, at least from what I can tell.
Yeah,
So
I
it
mean-
might be a growing problem, I'm not sure why.
Well, there is, you could look at it as a
They used to
problem.
be all over, man. They're designed to.
Yeah.
They banned the traps.
And yeah, who's gonna kill them? We don't have coyote can take out beaver, maybe, I don't know.
Probably.
Wolf,
Bobcat.
bobcats.
I just don't think there's enough of those predators that are gonna.
To keep them down, and they're in their ideal spots, and if it's someone's backyard now, because.
But on the other hand, I'm glad that they're increasing to some degree, because they were like expertized, I don't know how to say that, but like extinct in Massachusetts, and now they're not. And on open spaces, you want wildlife, and so these devices work well for them. And
No, it's-
there's gonna be more rain and flooding, that's only gonna increase with the warming weather. So,
And I think the concern with beavers is their natural habitat and so forth, but the amount of damage that they create needs to be contained within reason, right?
Well,
And it's very evident because they killed the trees, right? So it's a temporary, but it's 25 years, 30 years, a flipping
The
time.
woods that get flooded, but also the personal property and town
Wow.
property damage.
So beavers are a keystone species, and what they do in open space is really valuable to many, many species, including deer, you know?
It's a great
And so-
there, and they need place.
Yeah, they need it, and so the cutting the trees down, it's a good thing that they're doing it, but if it's on someone's property, that's not a good thing, because then they don't.
Well, it's always on someone's property, so whether it's some Tim Stewart's 100 acres or, you know.
But if it's open space, I mean, if it's town open space.
Yes, no, I'm definitely encouraging this, again, with the conversation's going a lot broader, but it is just, it's gonna be a growing thing, and so I support the beaver deceivers.
Just commenting on the culvert thing, John, Dudley is looking into culvert replacement also, because, and the state has a lot of grants for that, because they need to be bigger, because the rains are getting harder and heavier, yeah.
Okay, well, this might relate to the beaver thing, and I don't think it was that, but that the one, they failed Providence Road, right?
Mhm.
So he didn't come before us, but he had talked with Isabel. Can we just do a farmer fix and, you know, put 2 pipes under and do a minimum versus no, you've got to engineer it, design it, do the whole 9 yards. And after we kind of batted around, said, no, don't go there. Do it right, hire a professional, it's gonna take more, gonna cost more, but and what is happening, because we're giving approval to development upstream, and there's more and more flow, and yes, it was a wet, but it's getting worse and worse. And
I think that's a concern, that if it were to increase, that expense would increase as well, and, the number of.
The culvert's gotta be bigger.
Right. And I mean, that's the one, they want you to engineer it because they want it to last for a long time, and, you know, so.
That's taking everything off of Vincent Road, all that hill, Inman Hill is taking it all.
Was it again?
All that
The
water's
flow coming off the
hill.
hill.
On the backside of Vincent Road, it runs all down. It's serious water coming down there.
Interesting.
And we've just approved 2 new houses, right? Is that the same place? So there's more and more development, right? And it's, yeah, yeah, that's enough on that.
My only concern would, if it would become unsustainable, right, to install beaver solutions at every dam, if that were necessary or not. But for the time being, I think that's all we can do. Maybe going forward, some sort of balancing of, you know, expense versus the habitat and how that can be done. I'm not sure how. Like you said, they're important, they're natural species to this area, so, you know, just kind of keeping that in mind, if it were to increase at some point, right, that expense would be unmanageable almost.
Well, I think you have to make it a decision at each location, because some places, like on Lake Nipmuc, we had him come, and there was not enough of a drop, he said, you can't use it here. And so
It's
in
not
those
suitable for the
cases,
design.
right, and, you know,
Well,
and in
the
the long run, it can save money. Like highway departments use these a lot, because they're not having to replace.
That I
culverts
agree
and-
with, yes.
And then, you know, for me, what I think in open spaces, it, you know, keeps the areas more natural, and so where we can put them in, you know.
Well, and I'll grant you that, and I say that could almost be like a policy, that is another added value to our purchase of open space, to provide needed habitat for beavers, because we don't want them
Well, it's also,
elsewhere. So I guess we're saying we want beavers, but we want them where it's less obtrusive. So I don't know, it's just another argument.
well, open space is important for holding the floodwaters. You know what I mean? So it doesn't go on people's properties, because if you just develop everything, then it's gonna be on people's
But it
property.
makes it harder on the trails, because the beaver is there, but 5 years from now, they might want to move, and you got a trail established here, but yeah.
And Ann, do you think there's the possibility of funding from maybe another department that would benefit? Let's say there was a beaver dam that was causing problems to the roadways.
That would
Would the highway department contribute to that?
Yeah, they would pay for it if
They
they
would.
decided to use it, yeah, that wouldn't be us. These are just on open spaces that
Okay.
I'm talking about, and that's not town at all.
Okay.
No, but the beavers often use the drainage pipes as the place to build their dams, eh? But that's.
Yeah.
So you're looking for a motion?
Yeah,
So I'll make a motion to appropriate $750 for fiscal '24 for payment of the Beaver device and the balance to be paid in fiscal '25.
Second.
Was that $750?
I'm sorry?
$750?
Yeah.
Cheap.
Okay.
And then the balance in fiscal '25. Just changed it.
and I was also thinking too, if let's say it ended up, we had money left over this fiscal year, then we would vote again to use that money for this, and then the remainder would be paid, but, okay. So that Barry made the motion, is there a second to that?
I second
Any discussion? All right, all those in favor?
it. Aye.
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 Okay. Then I think Barry, you wanted to talk about the timing of the Emmett Hill Trail work. That's not, yeah.
Yeah, so it'd be a good idea if they get going on it, but the areas that are in the outside of the fields, in the brownfield, and also the area off the parking lot, because if they did those first and got them done like by the end of June, if they could,
Yeah.
middle of July, they need to be out of there by August.
Is this for deer to get them settled or the disturbance of the deer start kind of
I
by
mean,
August?
yeah, it might be a kind of thing where it doesn't happen this year, but it'll be next year, but I'll let Becky know that though.
Yeah, she can do it any time other than August to January and, you know,
I have a feeling
those
she's,
areas. The edge of the fields, Peter's working them, so they're not gonna, the edge of the field's not gonna be an issue.
I think that she's looking at grant money and trying to figure out, so I have a feeling,
Whatever works.
yeah, so I have a feeling it'll be,
So I would say no later than the first week of August, at the end of the first week of August, to shut those two areas down.
But she might also consider doing it in phases, right? She might do the clearing one part and then I don't know what's involved, grubbing something and bringing in materials, I don't know.
Will you tell me again, you were saying that, she should be done by July 1st, and,
Well, we can change it so that it's completed, so work is completed or they stop working for the year by the end of the first week of August, whatever the date is, I don't have a calendar for it.
First week of August.
and so when could they start?
They can start again after the first.
They can start anytime.
January, okay, I just wanted to get that.
Yeah.
clear.
January.
Okay,
Because they may find it easier for them to work in the winter.
Yeah, it's all in the dry too. and-
less leaves and all that, yeah,
Whatever she wants to do,
okay,
but like I said, as far as the edges of the field, she can do them as she pleases because Peter's working the fields anyway. So as far as the disturbance goes, it's not gonna really be any difference between the farmer and the same situation.
A tractor, yeah, fresh dirt.
Yeah.
And Ann, do you have a sense that that may not start this year, or?
well, I know she's looking for grant money, and, she, has to figure out exactly what they're doing and what, I don't know, just how they're gonna do it, right? So I have a feeling it won't maybe be till like January 1st, but I'll let you know.
But it's good for her to get all the permissions and get rid of
Just
it.
don't want to get her in there like last year.
Was it an issue, yeah?
People are getting attacked by a deer.
Oh, I didn't know that, okay.
Okay, great, I mean, and she really does wanna accommodate and work with
That's
us,
fine.
so,
That's,
Okay, all right, so I'll pass it on. Then I thought maybe we would want to vote on some of the annual town meeting
Yep.
articles, just, and the ones that I thought related to land use were, if the senior community center gets voted on, they want to have 2 pickleball courts, a bocce court, and 2 shuffleball courts, so that's use of the land, so I thought maybe we'd want to vote on that.
Just a quick question, would that be part of the total 18.2 that is, whatever the number is, does that
It'd be
include
addition.
bocce? Or
It'd be
that's
an
in addition?
addition, it'd be an addition.
Because that's just the structure, whatever.
13.2 is
13,
the
okay.
structure, yeah, and it's structure and parking lot and.
Well, they gotta do the grading, right? But you're suggesting bocce courts, there's room.
Well, they wanted
Somewhere.
to do this would be CPA money, and it would be around 200,000, but it would be less money while they're doing the grading and to have it all
It makes
together.
sense to
yeah,
you.
the equipment's there.
So that's something we could vote on. Then there's, the trail engineering, which is, would be on, where the senior center is sort of up a little bit, and then also from 131 to the Vandersloot property into Hopedale. And then there's a little gap there, but maybe at some point we could connect it. So that would be another thing. We can talk about it more when we get to
How
that.
much money is good that for?
Just $3,000. It's for engineering and figuring out how much it will cost, and so that we could take the next step if we wanted to actually build a trail.
I like that.
And also
Planning, longer term, higher scale planning, yeah. Go ahead.
And then the disc golf, and then the Denton properties. So
Disc golf. Is she ready with a prepare? Because she made a presentation at the last town meeting, and I thought it was good, and I support the concept, but there was a lot of questions to be.
right, yeah.
She's done her homework and she's figured it out.
So why don't we go through each one? But like, I guess my question would be: is there another one that you think we should vote on?
I wonder, I mean, to some extent, the
Oh, the
senior
senior
center
center.
itself is a use of town land, so.
It totally is. Totally is. Yes. Okay. Yeah. Actually, I had that on there.
Right, well, you mentioned it, but, yeah, I mean, it
No, good point.
potentially a separate question.
What?
Definitely. Well, because it's use of land,
I'm
so.
not following.
Oh, just that we could vote on whether or not we support the senior center in that location.
No.
Vote on that. Is there anything else?
Now I'm following. Now I'm following.
Could you, I mean, it's got the land use committee, 5-year land use.
We
program.
voted that.
We already voted that, so we don't need to, okay.
Yeah, although I'd be reluctant to have my vote on this be how I feel about spending that money on the senior center. To me, they're separate. And I might have my opinion and support it as it is a good use of open space and a good location, but maybe I have objections as to the cost. So.
Well, let's talk about that in a minute. I just want to
Okay.
find out if there's anything else people want to vote on. Is there anything else that's on?
I'm not that I'm aware of.
I think Elena's kind of.
I'm sort of looking, yeah.
Yeah,
I can't think of anything. I feel like you know it better than I do, so,
Okay,
yeah.
great. Let's see.
How many articles do we have on it?
For the latest, we just have one,
Okay.
but most of them are CPC articles, which we voted on already.
We land use wouldn't vote on those.
Well, just supporting the concept would be,
Did you already mention Article 29,
which is
the, I don't know,
Denton.
yeah,
Yeah.
we did, okay.
Okay, so why don't we talk through each of those and then decide if we want to vote for them. So the first one would be the senior community center. And comments.
Well, that's not the application for the budget.
No.
Okay, so this is 13.2 that is going to be voted up or down. I don't know how to vote. I'm supposed to be the representative for the Conservation Commission. I'm not sure how the commission feels about it. Does it matter their personal feel as to the need, or I'm just sensing that, well, what's wrong with our existing one? Should versus no, theoretically, that's a good spot. Or I might have concerns with the traffic. So I don't know,
So I guess land use is one of the missions or goals or, I don't know, things we're supposed to work on is good use of land in town. So I guess one of the things would be, is this a good location? And I think Elena is on the committee, so she can answer some questions here.
Right, so I mean, I guess, right, I see us as, this committee as talking about whether we think that that would be a good use of land, a good use of town
of
land.
that land.
Of
for-
that land to have that project on there, sort of aside
This
from
purpose,
the separate from like how much the project is going
Fair
to
enough.
be. But do we, like, this is town-owned land where I believe it's been argued at multiple town meetings that it was intended for municipal
For future
use.
municipal use.
And this is a municipal use.
Yes, it is.
And I'm happy to like talk about some of your other questions, which are good questions. So like there have been traffic studies. The current senior center actually there's higher traffic on Providence Road in front of the current senior center, and it's also faster traffic there, which is kind of a hazard for getting in and out. Whereas in front of this, like on North Avenue, there is traffic density, but Chief Kersey, who's also on the Senior Center Expansion Committee, says it's actually much safer there because it
It's
is
controlled, 'cause
slower.
it's right at the school. I'm just
Right.
worried about the backup. There's only like a couple, well, there's a couple hundred feet, but it is what it is, yeah. And it's-
So, and so the idea is to have, it's not technically an access road, but a long driveway to lead lower down the hill.
Okay.
And so bring the parking down the hill so that there isn't as much parking up, so that the parking won't be directly at the entrance. There still will potentially be parking for club school overflow, which is what that field is used for now. Let's see, what were some of the other points you'd asked?
Well, the dollar amount.
The dollar amount, so that one is of course very complicated, and it has to do, so the size was determined by a number of studies and discussions with Amy, our senior center director, about what is needed for programming that they have, as well as for the food pantry. The food pantry is currently basically in an unfinished basement. The senior center is not fully ADA accessible. And so the space is too small for a lot of their programming. Additionally, the kitchen is too small for a lot of sponsored meal programs that they have. Some of the cost issues have to do with needing, the public water supply, which I'm sure you're familiar with. The building of this size will need the sprinkler system, the fire suppression sprinkler system, which will then necessitate the water tank for it. Trying to think, so some of the cost is from the size, and inflation in recent years has increased the cost of building materials quite, substantially. So the cost of municipal buildings, it seems like the average for recent projects is about $1,000 per square foot. So that's what we're coming up against. And as far as the size, it has been scaled back from what was originally wanted. And some of that, so there was one price tag that came in that was more like 17 million. So some of the things got shaved back. So one was that the original plans had 2 full stories, whereas now, and the building is on a grade. So now there isn't going to be the excavation. So there's going to be, the top level, and then the basement level will not be the full dimensions of the upper level, because that will save, that will save quite a bit in the excavation costs. There were some changes made about the road. So originally the hope was to have more of an access road, so that if there were further, like future development down the hill, that it would be providing access to that, but that cost is more expensive to do the full access road versus basically a driveway. The other cost cutting came in with the garage, because the senior center has a van. So there's still going to be a garage, but it's going to be more of a shell of a garage as opposed to like finished. I think that,
So the carport sort of like, you mean? Or-
no, it'll be enclosed, but I think the original design had it more of a finished building with storage and but I don't, I wasn't in on that conversation, but I do know that the cost of the garage portion got cut back by several $100,000, I believe, I think. Trying to think, so anyhow, the cost is definitely expensive, and I understand the sticker shock that people are feeling from that.
Well, let me just
yeah.
post, because it's, I
Yeah.
haven't been following.
Yeah,
It's very reminiscent of the library. And so my first suspicion, well, the big picture, yes, that's the shock. And okay, I can get over that kind of sort of. But it's the worry that it's the program, now we need a garage for the seniors event.
oh,
Now, is it also, it's not just a senior center, it's a community center and food bank. I support that, but it's not not just, and then you need space, that I see. But then you've got to overcome the Yankee in me that says, the existing space looks good to me, and isn't there room for, so I understand sometimes it's more expensive to try to,
yes.
and then there's a
So-
lot more older.
so,
so I'm sure
Yeah,
it's
the
more
existing
expensive.
space, so we did a study, we actually looked at 4 properties in town, including staying on the current property. The biggest drawback with the current property is that the parking configuration is already fixed because there's already, like, the ideal parking configuration would have the building be further back and so you can't move the building. So that's one
No, but
issue.
don't you have a lot of room
There's
to put the parking?
there's another acre, it's not that much.
If they don't-
And so, right, so one issue, another issue is the building would the uses of the building would need to be relocated for the time that it took to do the construction.
Where are they going to be?
So the senior center and the food bank, so that was one issue.
Mhm.
Another issue,
Public water supply.
so
That
public
was huge.
waters, public
Well,
water.
wouldn't that be needed at both places,
It
whether
would
you
be,
stay
there's not
or?
room for it
Well,
at that site, really.
right, so, and the issue
Not room
is
for public works.
the expansion
Public works spot
in that
size of well
site.
and a- Okay,
Where you need like a big zone.
We need a zone
The
of-
expansion would still need the sprinkler
400
system
feet.
because it would be surpassing that limit on the, so I think it's like 7,000 square feet. I don't remember. the
It's
exact
square
number.
footage or cost. So if the
It's-
renovation exceeds 50% of the value of the property, you're gonna have to bring it up to code as sprinkler
Right,
system.
so
that's the big.
right,
that's the big
renovations to the current site would still be very expensive. And the architect suggested that it was actually going to be like a similar amount, new site versus existing building, but we never did the full cost analysis of the existing site. A lot of people did, there are people who are very attached to the current site, but the current site still has a number of limitations, so safety, so forth. So, but these are really good questions, and you know,
The only
they're
other
like,
question,
yeah.
question I have is, what are you gonna do with the old building when?
Yes. that is another good question, and we have talked about possibly having a working group to discuss this. There are town departments that are asking for more space, so like I can tell you, I can
You'll
name
find
two
out.
of them offhand. So potentially, the town is gaining another building because the building is in really good shape. The existing senior center is, it's
Structural.
very well maintained. It's got a good,
Good bones.
it's got good bones, it's got a good garage, where the van has been parked is, under the building. And it's definitely usable, but it's not sufficient for the current needs. So the current senior center only has 2 offices, and a big meeting area. And I know, like, from experience at meetings, that the assistant is answering the phone while you're doing a meeting. There isn't a separate space for that. So, and for a lot of the uses of that building, some of them are quite confidential, with people coming in to either get sometimes health services that come in, or sometimes talk about their finances. So really, I mean, but anyhow, that's a few of the things, but yeah, I'd be happy to share more.
But that is also the answer on that public water supply thing. They also have their own septic, but they also have the septic from Clough School that comes down to the town hall on that property.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Yeah, but
yeah.
that's under pressure, you can't tap into that line.
Well, that, I'm
The
just
field
saying,
maybe.
what I'm saying is on that property, there's a lot of,
Stuff that
that
restricts, gotcha.
exactly, and then you got the highway on the other side, and you have to have a zone that's big enough to protect you, well.
Speaking of the force main from Clough down to the highway department, did anybody look into adding that to the septic system on the new building if that goes through?
I think it's,
Rather than
It's-
pumping
I
it
think
If
halfway
there was
across town?
capacity, it might be nice.
I think it's to capacity, I'm pretty sure on that.
What's that?
There's not enough
the
capacity,
town hall and Clough use that whole septic.
there's not extra, you're saying?
No. What I'm saying is, has anybody looked into taking it from the highway department, redirecting Clough to the new senior center?
Oh,
The
to
new
the-
senior center goes
to the
into
corner
their
lot.
septic system, so that we're not
Oh.
pumping it halfway across town.
That's an interesting question. I don't know,
We would take that,
I don't
label
recall
the
that.
main out, just leave these
Yeah.
in.
Yeah,
Not pumping from Clough down to here, down to there.
You think the soil's suitable up there?
It's gonna be doable for the septic system for that building, I would assume.
Yeah, but it's a large load from the school, I would think. I don't know. Why, you asked a question.
Yeah.
Why?
I would investigate it.
right, but I guess who, who would investigate it as
Board of Health.
Board of Health?
That's
Okay,
their
yeah,
purview.
yeah. That's
I
an
agree with
interesting-
it. That's a
interesting question, right? It's
that's
certainly a lot
question that I want
closer.
answered.
It's a lot
Why we're
closer.
spending that kind of money developing that site? If that's something that, because now we're not forcing the main all the way down past here to the highway department from up there.
Well, wait a minute, it's gotta go there, so that's the leach field, right? It's all the way down.
But Barry's saying maybe have it.
Take off the upper half. and then-
Right. So now you just got this and that going to there.
Okay.
So you're taking part of the load off of that there.
It's a pretty long distance.
It's all downhill.
A lot of it's flat. So it creates issues.
Okay, yeah, where they had to go under and then.
No, from there to here, to there.
There.
So I'm saying, take that load off and re-divert it over there. I think it should be investigated while we're in the planning stages of that building,
Okay, that's,
you know,
okay.
if nobody's brought it up. That's just me thinking as a.
Right, no, I think that's a good point. I don't recall that being brought up, at least at the senior center expansion
Okay.
meetings. I think, right, it was more thinking about, you know.
I understand, but
Yeah,
we're doing a septic,
no, it's a
we're
good
doing a
point. No,
septic
and
system over
if
there.
if
Yeah.
there's a benefit to the town.
Right. Yep.
So that's,
We're doing a septic system over there, maybe just a question of increasing the size of the leach field over there,
right,
which is just more gravel or whatever. I have no idea what the soil conditions are over there, but I was assuming better than pumping from there down.
Architect might be.
yeah,
Awesome.
so,
I
okay,
think
yeah.
the soils were not suitable at high school, that's why they pumped it, and it's the same soils across, so it's like, it's worth it, it's worth
You know, it's
it.
another question you have when they say what did they do in the old building,
Yes,
say what departments need space.
Well,
Because,
right.
because if you say there's a working,
Okay.
it'd be like, okay, you.
well, okay, so, right, I mean, specifically parks and highway have both been looking for more space.
I know, you can say those are.
So those are, yeah, so that's what I've heard. Whether there might be,
Workspace since I've been.
yeah, so whether there might be additional, well, so, and then there's, right, some question of whether we are going to, have, public works rather than highway and park separate. So like there is that talk with, we have this,
Growing
And it's in the
pains.
same location,
Right,
which is,
right.
you know, makes sense.
So, but
Every
there's,
time I winterize the ball fields and activate them in the spring, I'm climbing over machines to get to the equipment in the back lawn.
oh, okay,
It's
yeah,
crazy.
Ball
I
fields
open up
where?
the door and it's like, come on,
yeah.
A ball fields where?
the ball field's up.
Memorial.
Oh, Memorial, okay, yeah. All right, any more?
Is that a particular article we were just talking about?
It's for the senior community center.
Do you know which number that is? I just. wanted to
Yes,
know.
it is 21. And so, right, 21 is specifically about the financing, but I think if people ask the question about like the land use. And just, oh, and one other point to that, I think I mentioned that the committee looked at, 4 properties. So 3 of them town owned, so one the location of the existing senior center, one being the North Avenue and Hopedale property, one being the Morrison Drive property where there's the shell of the fire, the shell of the police station. But that one did not have good access. There was a 4th property that's privately owned in a trust with a conservation restriction to be like an agricultural center. And so that one was potentially going to be donated for the senior center, but the conservation restriction would probably involve like a couple of years of work to get the conservation
yeah.
restriction
Rescind it.
rescinded, if it even could happen. We wouldn't have that guarantee. And in the 1.5 to 2 years, the cost of building will continue to go up.
So a quick question and a potential motion. The CPA committee has approved recommendations for the senior center. Is it going to be tapping any CPA monies to make it happen?
No, but after, if this is
So
approved,
if the town meeting makes an approval.
then we'll go to the pickleball, bocce and that.
Right, but the town meeting is not going to come to CPA for any monies to build the senior center.
No,
No, we can't.
Okay.
just the recreation.
So there is no vote on the senior center from the CPA committee, because there's been no request.
Well, because you can't,
Recreation.
it doesn't, yeah. fit.
So I'm okay, I guess, using this committee to support the location as being appropriate. Full stop, with really no implication as to the size, and the use, the space and the uses is appropriate.
Well, that's what we're here for, the land use.
Right, and so I'm saying that those two are right, but whether it's a shack or a $1 million or a $5 million, I don't want to necessarily want my vote to support
That's
that.
that's fair.
I think that's,
Okay.
accurate.
I agree.
All right, so Peter makes a motion
To
for the
support, to
location.
support the concept of however you define that property.
I go with the use of the land.
To support the concept of the use of the land for senior center. That site is an appropriate use of the land.
And Elena second.
I'll second, yeah, unless someone else wants to. I think you know where I stand on this, but yes, I'll second.
Carolyn left.
I think she got knocked out.
But I think
Oh, she
we don't need.
Yeah, she
her.
looked like she said.
No, I want to ask her, can she hear?
Mm.
You know what I
She
mean?
looked like
Right.
she was having some technical difficulties.
Yeah, the screen was kind of, I think the plan had exploded.
She took off. Is there anything else in that article that you think comes under our purview, beyond land use?
I think that the use of that land, that's that makes sense for us.
Mhm.
Because a lot of the objections in the past have been that that property should be used for future municipal use, and this is municipal use.
Mhm.
That's what we bought it for.
Mhm.
Well, that's why we divided into three, right? We got the commercial development one, the permanent protected, yes, and the other, full space.
All right, any more discussion?
No.
All right, all those in favor?
All right.
Aye. Okay. Okay, so the next one would be, do you support having 2 pickleball courts, a bocce court, and 2 shuffleball courts in that location?
For a total of how much?
200,000. That's CPC money.
And we need to spend how much on recreation?
We don't need to spend any.
No, but don't we have? don't we
Not
have
on
certain-
recreation, it's
Not on recreation.
affordable, historical, and open space, and then recreation is just extra.
Okay, so it's not a primary, that would suggest that's not a primary focus of how we should spend our monies.
Well, I think they added it because the things in CPA are items that towns put in the back burner and they don't vote for, and recreation is one of them, and so that's why it's on there. So I would say it's important.
So this goes to the aspect of community use up there, not just senior use.
Yeah, definitely.
Right. I guess the philosophical point I'm trying to batter around here is, I like the idea of multiple use of funds. And so buying land is a good thing, and that's what I see. And then for what purpose? Okay, affordable housing, historic resource, and open space. For recreation? Yeah, I guess. Would I support buying new land for our soccer fields? Yes. Would I support using an existing area as for municipal and then expand? I guess, maybe, yeah, I don't know. And $200,000 is a lot, but you got bocce court, what were the others?
2 pickleball courts.
Pickball's a big thing these
A
days.
bocce and 2 shuffleboard courts, and it's
Bocce,
less
shuffle.
expensive because they're doing the excavation now, so that's why they want to do it now with the project versus having to do the excavation 2 years later, and, I don't know.
I don't know, because that sounds expensive pickleballs, but I don't know.
I think Parks has expressed a need for a better basketball court, also, so, I mean, because the existing basketball court is.
Yeah, we talked about that, and, Dan said that, this location would be good.
Oh,
And that-
really?
Yeah, and that he'd rather focus on it at Memorial Field.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay,
Because that goes.
Oh, but it's-
Over there at the senior center.
okay.
Yeah, I think the type of people you may have. anymore, but that
But
makes
it's
a
still,
good
it's
point.
still listed here.
Is it really?
It is.
Here she go, hey, coming in first.
So,
I think Barry makes a good point that if this were just a senior center, then
hear?
those activities would.
I couldn't hear after a while.
Oh,
At
that's
that
what I was
cost.
wondering.
I don't know what.
Maybe a bocce court
Combination of
shuffleboard
new
would
hearing
be
aids.
appropriate, and I don't know what the cost is, but it's $200,000 for that.
Because it's not equipment, it's
I
not
thought
No,
that said no, because I guess
the
Andy
pickleball
said, yes,
is-
let's do it.
a cage and a deck.
I was so irritated because you were explaining everything about the senior center. I wanted to hear about it.
Okay.
And I'm
I'm happy to
supporter.
talk to you,
Supposedly
probably
not.
not
I know,
tonight, but I'm happy to like.
I mean, I like the
one-on-one
idea,
talk.
I would love
but there are a lot
But
of
actually
issues.
tomorrow, there's an open
Nobody-
house, the
No,
current
it's-
senior center.
and,
where it's voted.
you know,
So-
As far as the open, do you want me
And I
to
look
come?
at that in terms of.
I-
but
how
I
we
said-
go
So,
to say,
yeah, so they'll be talking
we're gonna
about
allocate that
some
money.
current programs as well as
That-
the new.
There is some
expansion.
sticker shock there.
Again, but that,
Okay.
too.
So guys, we have 8 minutes.
Something.
Yeah, we have 8 minutes.
Yeah.
So, the basketball court actually is included. I know we went back and forth, but I guess Dan did finally say yes, basketball court.
So that's part of the 200,000.
So there is basketball court there too.
That's a big expense.
Basketball court.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you add that in?
So, would someone like to make a motion that they think this is a good location for all this? 2 pickleball, 1 bocce, 2 shuffleboard, and a, basketball court.
Are you going along the same concept that you can support the concept as to the space and the appropriate use, but that the budget might not be appropriate? Is that-
Well, you don't have to vote on the budget, no, you're right, so we can be, is this a good location? Yeah,
I think it's a good use
Good
of
use of that.
of the space, especially given the current project.
Take a
is
motion.
that a
And
motion?
I guess.
Have we ruled out other
second
locations
that.
as well? I mean, if we're talking about the best location, or are we talking about an appropriate location?
Well, if this project doesn't happen, we're not gonna vote. That's not,
Okay,
so this is, so this is like a community center where people are gonna be gathering, and so this is.
You already got the
location.
parking developed.
Right, so it would be an additional
And
use of that developed space, so taking advantage of.
Wonderful space,
So-
wonderful.
I'm ready for a vote.
Well, who seconded it?
I did.
Okay, any more discussion?
You're talking about the senior center?
No, the
Well,
bocce
we're
court
talking
at the
about-
senior center.
I'm sorry, which?
Yes,
2
so-
pickleball courts, a bocce court, 2 shovelball courts, and a basketball court.
Okay, the spaces.
Is that a good location, do we support that? So, go ahead, questions? All right, so all those in favor? Was that everybody? Is that Peter, did you vote?
I said aye.
Okay.
Frank, aye?
Okay. All right, and then, all right, so then, I would say that the trail engineering one, for $2,000 is for a trail that would be from the senior center, and as much of it as possible would be ADA accessible. And then it will go on to some adjoining open space properties the town owns, the open space, and then possibly onto another property, but we're still trying to get in touch with the owner.
Is this from the existing senior or this from the potential new? So it's the same thing. If that falls down, we're not doing this.
No, this one I think we'd go forward anyways.
With the trails, okay. Because we got the land. Well, yeah, that makes
And
sense.
so then it sort of ends by Muddy
So
Brook,
if you don't get access to the property you're trying to,
then it would just be a shorter trail.
Yeah.
But we'll know that, when we do the engineering and talk to people. And then the other part would be from 131 North Avenue, which is where the corner of Hopedale Street and North Avenue, onto the Vandersloot property that the town will hold the conservation restriction on, into open space in Hopedale.
Mhm.
And then stop for the time being. And then there's a kind of a gap to connect those two. But,
What is the
Yeah.
impediment to fill
they
that
just don't
gap?
connect right now
but
because,
who do you gotta go through to get
Is
to?
it a one owner? Is it 100
It's
yards?
quite a lot of properties.
it's actually not that much.
Oh,
It's
it's just
really
one owner?
close. Mhm. I don't know if I mentioned the name.
Yeah, well, anyway.
Yeah, and so, and if it doesn't happen, it'll still be 2 really nice trails.
Mhm.
Maybe someday it can go to Hopedale, who knows? But,
So I'll make a motion to appropriate $2,000 to develop said trails.
or just say, well, let's not do the money part, let's just say, you know, that would be a good location for trails.
Yeah.
But then we know that engineering costs are 2,000?
3,000,
3,000?
yeah,
Could I ask what budget that would come from or what pot of money?
CPC,
So, yeah, but
Same way.
same.
CPA,
Okay.
open space.
Open space.
I'll second if somebody,
I already made it.
oh, yeah, so yeah, I'll second if someone has something.
No?
Any more discussion?
And that motion was to support the.
Use.
Locate,
Looking at the
use.
trail.
Location.
Yeah, and it is Article 24.
Rings a bell, huh?
And then, I'm gonna skip to
Did you
Denton.
want us to vote?
All those in favor?
Oh, yeah,
Okay.
okay.
Okay. All
And
right.
that was only for the location. right?
Okay.
For like location and use for trails.
Yes. Location use, yes, that's it. So the next one is a nine-hole disc golf course at the Paddock property at 75 and 73 Providence Street.
She shifted the paddocks.
Yeah, after looking at the different properties, that seems to be the best.
For which,
Disc
Disc
golf,
the,
And the
this
parking
golf,
is
this
going
golf,
everywhere?
okay.
and the price on that, which CPA also would pay for, is $63,500.
63, and parking for how many cars is gonna be where?
The parking would just be,
Just, don't use that word.
it wouldn't, no, it would be like a non-pervious.
I understand, but you're gonna,
Three.
Depends on what they do. with
how
the-
many spaces
Depends on what
is
they
she,
do with the
is,
affordable
are they
housing.
expected, excuse me?
Depends on what they do with the affordable housing.
Yeah, yeah. and
But
so-
it would still, I imagine it's popular, could easily on a weekend get 10, 12 cars.
Well,
So 10, 12 cars is more than we normally have as a trailhead, right? We've been able to sneak in parking for our trails
I would say,
2 or 3 years. You start getting, and then you need room to back up and it's.
I was saying that property probably maybe 3 spaces, but it abuts the Applewood open space, which abuts the Morrison Drive land, and there was a parking lot there, so people could use that and come in
Okay.
that way.
Yeah, I don't know, because you can't park on the road, right? That's Providence Road.
No.
There's no other roads.
They're not parking on the road.
No.
She made a good point with Dennis.
Okay,
Yeah, so
Morrison,
like,
it's in Morrison.
right, there's a lot of spaces there.
okay, you'll have to come from that end, and, okay. Because I support the concept, and it's the right location.
Someone want to make a motion?
Again, it's the cost. Well, how much money is it?
It's 63,500.
It's the same number we've been tossing around since she brought it in the first time.
But this is not coming from CPA for recreation, so it's again, you know,
It's using
it's
this.
not one of my priority.
Get people on the open space and get people exercising, it's a health kind of thing, it's, brings people into town, that could be going to
Developing
stores.
recreational opportunities.
And to me, the price is a lot better than the 200,000.
That's what I was gonna ask about.
But maybe the audience is much bigger.
It's 9 holes, and, she just, you know, with the excavating and everything, that's how much it costs.
And the last proposal was upwards of 200, I think the engineering alone was 30, right?
No, I don't think so, it was, actually, it was less, it's a little bit more now. But, and in the end, it could be less. No,
But doesn't that go to the CPA? That's not this committee, right?
No, but it's the location, now, we're just talking.
So again,
about-
the
okay,
location,
but-
use the location.
Use of the land for this recreational purpose.
I'm okay with it if you can develop parking, or, but you're saying off of Morrison, so, okay, off of Morrison makes sense. So, yeah. I'll make one.
Sure.
No, you.
I will make a motion to support the location of the disc golf, well, we're not deciding on the location of the disc golf over at Paddock Farm,
Okay, at 75, you can say 75 and 73 Providence,
70.
73 and 75 Providence Street. Second?
Second.
Aye.
Aye. All those in favor?
Unanimous.
Okay, then the last one is the Denton property, and I don't know how much we need to talk about that. You know,
Which property?
the Denton property is 200 acres, it's on top of, the other thing I mentioned, it's on top of the source of the town's aquifer, which covers 2/3 of the town.
It's on top of the
Yeah,
aquifer.
which we didn't know, but you were kind of finding out like how valuable this
How
land
did you
is. So
find
this-
that out?
Because they've done water studies, and so that means that a lot of people's wells
It's
depend
the
on
only
it.
sand and gravel in town.
Oh, wow.
But,
Is that going to be
Besides the
revealed
attic.
during the meeting?
yeah,
Muddy
Good.
Brook.
I mentioned that in the presentation, but that, it's pretty crazy, because
I think it's a really useful point.
And this is it, it's way down.
so what's this?
I was just talking about aquifer. So is this now public information? This is not secret?
Yeah, it's on the warrant, yeah.
Not yet, it will be.
So I'm making a motion for that appropriation.
I'll
We're
second.
at 1.2 right now, right?
Well, actually, I mean, if everything works out like I wanted to,
Yeah.
it'd be 500.
Right, but we need to say it's 1.2, don't we, to get
Oh.
grants?
But we'd already saved money on this,
Right, yeah, I think this is it.
but we had to set aside 1.8 because it's a reimbursement grant and,
So you have to put an initial outlay of 1.8, and then we'll get money back.
So this committee would strongly support the purchase of this parcel, not only for its invaluable open space, but its water.
Yeah.
Right.
Protect that.
Yeah, holy moly.
Is it, but I mean, is it purchasing
the conservation.
the conservation restriction, not purchasing the land?
Right.
But we can
That's
support,
okay.
We own the development.
right, so we can purchase, yeah, we can
Permanent
support
open space now.
the
But you
purchase of the
Conservation.
Is that gonna be available for use?
Yes, trails. Yep.
It's even better. You don't own it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's beautiful property. I gotta get out there and get some more pictures.
And well, and I think that this is the one with the Nature Conservancy
Yep.
grant is related to, which I think the
Conservancy.
Nature Conservancy grant is for this property, which I think also speaks to the importance of
And
the
Audubon.
property in terms of like natural habitats.
And Audubon.
And Audubon
Both of
also,
them.
yeah.
And
Yeah,
and
that's
they
awesome.
contacted us because of the.
What's the actual address?
Yes.
So it,
I'll tell you, it's,
Might be multiple, because he's carving out some land of the existing house and maybe another lot.
he's keeping the existing house, but then he cut out one lot because he'd like to put a house on it,
Yeah.
but it's 30, 34, 36, 46, Thayer Street, and 192 Providence. Oops.
I'll leave it on this.
So they're all on the same side,
3246.
Yeah.
right, but it also has frontage on Providence.
Right.
But it's on the other side of Muddy Brook. It doesn't have frontage on Providence. It's on the other side of Muddy Brook, but the assessor, just assigns a road to it where it's like backland.
Okay.
It's like backland, so it's not on any road, that parcel.
What number
Is it all
Providence
connected
is that?
though?
197.
Must be all connected.
192, it says, and
192.
192 is.
That was the one in Providence.
My mistake. Change the 702.
I can correct it too when you send me the. So Barry made the motion. Would someone like to second that?
I'll second it.
Peter?
Yeah.
All
Aye.
in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Aye,
Okay,
Also adjourned.
okay.
that was a motion to support the purchase of conservation.
Yeah.
Yes, yes. Mhm. So Barry made a motion to adjourn. Second?
Peter seconds out.
Yeah.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Good night.
With our feet.
Thank you. So Carolyn, I'm audio, all this stuff. Like how people. Do you have one in card yet?
I
Is
don't,
that in your game?
October.
Oh,
We
really?
suffered the actual
part of
official
this,
date.
you're talking about that?